Welcome to Feedback Friday, everyone. Nate and I, we love people, we love designers, and we love designing. And so we try to create a space for people to chat about design and to get feedback along the way on portfolios and resumes. And that is exactly what we aim to do today. Now, we want to spend time with each of you. So we apologize that we cannot have every single review done today, but we'll do our best to give everyone a dedicated amount of time to talk about what's working in your portfolio, maybe what your career trajectory is, some strategy pieces, and helping you basically get where you want to go. You may have heard of the portfolio roast, and we're just not fans of that title. We don't like roasting people. Although, like, roasted food is pretty good, but we're not a fan of roasting people. And so we'll try to be collaborative, friendly, as approachable as possible. So just let us know if you have feedback along the way, or feel free to ask us genuine questions as well. But I say let's jump into it. Any other caveats, Nate?
Yeah, a couple of housekeeping shenanigans. We do this every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you weren't able to get your resume or portfolio in the queue today, would love to see you at a future Friday. And then the other final caveat is everything today is being live streamed and recorded on YouTube. Here's a link in the chat, but the moral there for you is you don't have to take any notes. You can go back and rewatch anything afterward. You can also subscribe, wink, wink, but also if you want to share any of your things, you have to make sure there's no sensitive data on it. For example, your phone number on your resume if you don't want that shared with the greater world. And those are all the caveats. Tim, first on the list, we've got
Do we
a
need to do a mic check or anything?
excellent question. Let me open this up. Say something.
Hey, Nate. It's good that we're doing a mic check, because anyone who has been here in the past knows that sometimes we forget to do mic checks and then we record stuff and it's impossible to hear anything because we didn't do our mic check.
Everything's
Thanks for bearing
looking
with us as we
good.
do a mic check.
Everything's looking good.
Excellent.
The conundrum from last week was that I double recorded sound. So everybody except myself had an echo because I recorded them twice. I am a professional remote worker. First on the list today is
All right.
Luna.
Luna, get on up here. Let's see if I can. Good morning, Luna. I think morning. Morning for me. Is it morning for you? I think Luna. I think it's muted.
Oh, sorry. It's now it's 2 p.m. in my day. I forgot to unmute myself.
All right. Well, hello, Luna. Thanks for being here. We'd love to hear a little bit about you. If you can introduce yourself, maybe a little bit about what your design profession is or what you're hoping it will be, and then what you're hoping to accomplish with Nate and I today, so we know what to talk about.
Okay. Hi. Uh, I'm hi. It's Luna, and you also can call me Ning. And I'm a graphic design graduate. And I have experience in UI design because it's volunteer job. But I do have experience in the UI design, the user research, and a little of like graphic design skills in my internship. I hope I can find my first full-time position in the US UI designer. And I also hoping you can check my resume and my first case study again.
Okay, Luna, am I hearing that you have been here before?
Yes, I keep been
Okay.
here. I think a couple week.
All right. Very cool. And was I'm trying to remember. I don't remember everything. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know if I've seen Luna's portfolio. Nate, do you remember Luna's portfolio?
Yeah, we've chatted with Luna. In fact, Luna, I think you were here just last week. Is that accurate?
I think so.
It was something like
As I
that.
have, yeah, I think 2 weeks. You told me 2 weeks before.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Now, I don't remember how in depth we've looked at Luna's portfolio because I think previously, Luna, we've talked a lot about like abstract positioning stuff. And I'm also
Um,
hearing that you're wanting to target resume stuff. Do you want to talk about your resume before we look at your portfolio? We probably only have
yeah,
time for one.
it's fine.
Resume, okay. And you're
Ning.
okay us
Yeah,
opening that up on a live stream on YouTube?
sure.
There's nothing sensitive?
Yes.
Perfect. I love talking about resumes. Ah, okay.
Um,
Now, I have a couple of things that we can certainly talk about, but let me ask you, Luna, the resume, the objective of the resume is to initiate the application process as you're applying for jobs. And it sounds like your goal is to get that FTE position in UX UI. Are you applying for jobs
yeah.
currently?
Yes, I did apply like an internship and junior level before. I think I applied for three last week. I think so because I haven't heard any feedback.
I was wanting to ask where in the process it's failing. So I'm hearing you're applying for jobs currently. You're using this resume, and you're not getting
Yes,
any bites in regard to any interviews. Is that sounding right?
yes.
Got it. Okay, understood. Tim, there are a couple of directions we could take the conversation here. Let me write some stuff down first. Any gotchas on your side you want to start the conversation with?
I think if we haven't talked about the application and job process yet, I think we should take some time to explain that to Luna. So that way, the value and actual mechanism of why a resume is important and what it does makes a little bit more sense. It also helps to clarify why we give some of the visual feedback across resumes that we give and what you should probably aim for across a resume in general. So if we haven't touched on that, or we didn't do it last week, we should touch on that this week so way Luna has maybe a good like basis to go off of for the next bit of feedback that we're going to share with her.
Mm.
Tim, I think that's the right call. Were you giving me the mic? Was that what you were doing?
Yeah, you asked me, so I was going to give you the mic.
Oh, okay, cool. There are a couple of key parties that we're attempting to design resumes for. Now, back in the day, and I say back in the day being like the old days of the 2015s and earlier, maybe the 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 original priorities were we want to target the recruiters and we want to target the hiring managers in writing a resume. Now, oh Tim, so
Mm.
you're wanting to elevate. So I was going to talk about target audience. Did you want to elevate even higher than that?
No, I think you're good. I'm just going to make this quick little flow chart. I
Cool.
think we're probably going to reference this a couple of times, so I'm just going to make it. We're going
Oh,
to make it here.
okay. Right on. Cool. So, two target audiences, hiring managers and recruiters. Typically, we're targeting recruiters first. Then, time passed. AI has become a thing. ATSs have become a larger friction point within organizations. And the now highly prioritized audience that I would argue is priority number one is targeting the ATS. If you're unfamiliar, chat with what an ATS is, it stands for Applicant Tracking System. And this is the utility that organizations and companies use to manage relationships. Now, when we talk about ATSs, we primarily talk about resume filtration, but you should know that ATSs are relationship management utilities. Anytime you talk with somebody at an organization, that relationship is stored in that ATS. A hiring manager can look at their ATS and say, and see, oh, look, I talked with Tim on this particular date. Here are the documents we've passed back and forth. Here are the conversations we've had. Here are the negotiations that have taken place. It's a relationship management utility. Nowadays, ATSs are being more heavily used for resume filtration because there are a low supply of jobs available and 1,000 people are applying for those immediately. Hence the conundrum of how can I filter all these candidates for the right person? ATS in a nutshell.
Okay.
So, where I'm wanting to swing back to this, Luna, is your resume is currently really well designed for a human and potentially lackluster in being designed for that ATS in mind. And there's a couple of
Um,
quandaries here at place. So, if I'm hearing that you're applying for jobs and you're getting no feedback, ATS being the first failure point, I think that's where the failure point is occurring, which is awesome because talk about easy, low hanging fruit to fix. Let me pause there. How's all of that sounding so far? Is that redundant to your current knowledge? Is that all that making sense?
yes, I did with the ATS track in the ChatGPT, and I hope it can be passed. And it's rated in 8.2, I think. But when I trying to DeepSeek, it's going to back to the 7. it's RaveSeiya because I want to know what it's like going
Hmm.
back to the machine. But I think DeepSeek and Gemini and uh, ChatGPT have different opinion about my resume.
Yeah, and every application will have a different opinion on what your resume is. Like if you ever use a resume application that like measures how effective your resume is versus job description A, they will all provide different levels of like familiarity and correlation to everything. So know that there is no perfect answer out there. Every application has different opinions on how these things work. There are a couple of things we can take a look at here though, and the first one is the application, your current resume, is being parsed, I believe, in an incorrect format. What's the application that you use to build this resume? Do you know?
Figma because it has templates there.
Yeah, I feel
Oh,
you on this one. And this is a common trap. So the conundrum is the Figma does not have a great capability of producing PDFs with the intention of consumability for robots in mind. And the quandary is if I were to like copy and paste your resume, in fact, Sim, if you've got a second, copy and paste this resume, just do a control all or command
yeah.
all in your case, paste it into some sort of
Sweet.
text document, we will see likely that your information is being pasted in an order that's probably different from what you're expecting. And this is the quandary with an application like Figma, where if your goal is to paste this resume into or use this resume to apply for a job, an ATS is going to parse it, but the information is not going to be in the order that you're expecting. Therefore, it's not going to understand your resume cleanly, thus immediately filtering you out from the job application pool. So yeah, take a look. Here's Tim pasting it here. We've got your contact info at top, which is good. And then it looks like we jump right into a LinkedIn profile. I'm looking for, okay, so professional experience. It looks like we've got on my screen skills in a bizarre order.
Okay, so I need to change the template.
Well, this is actually, ooh, well, let's come back to that. But this is actually in an order that's better than I expected. We do have skills that have like been embedded here, which is kind of unusual. All that to say, and we can talk about the Figma and why this is the incorrect application. Heavily recommend you transition into either Microsoft Word or Google Docs for your resume. Neither of which are particularly fun applications, and they're kind of a bummer to use. But if the goal is ATS parsing, still the industry standard for building resumes that are effective. Any conflicts, any resistance to switching your resume over to either of those applications?
Hmm?
All right, you will lose some stuff along the way. You're going to sacrifice some visual aesthetic here. You'll sacrifice the imagery. You'll sacrifice a lot of the fancy styling here. That will be for the best, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the challenge is because a PDF is there's two types of PDFs really. There's a flat PDF and then there's rich PDFs. And rich PDFs come with lots of metadata. And certain PDF creators and tools are very good at instructing the PDF through metadata how it should be read and what the structure and format is. But when you use other tools such as like a Figma or something that's not suited for text PDF creation, um, it just gets a little bit out of place. Like you can tell, even just looking here, as Nate was pointing out, like some of your information is just very separated. We have spaces in kind of an odd place. Like if you submitted this to an ATS system, there's a chance, I'm not guaranteeing, but there's a chance that it's going to read everything kind of out of order. And then all the time that you spend working on this kind of goes down. It undermines your own application because your information is just not parsed correctly, especially when you have like design and tools, which are slightly different. You can see that these are just embedded in just a slightly weird way. So you can use something as simple as go if you use Google Docs. Google Docs is a very good PDF creator. So you just go into Google Docs and create a plain Google Doc document for resume. I would not use Figma though, and I do love Figma. We love Figma, but I would not use Figma for your resume almost anytime. There's Nate, are we ready for some other feedback across this resume?
I think so. Did you have something in mind?
Yes, there's a couple of just normal structure things we should talk about. So when you're looking at like the job cycle, uh, you'll notice that you start with an ATS check, which is what Nate's talking about. There's a human reviewer check, another human reviewer check, and then you get to a team lead check. And typically, what we see is your resume is most important for these two people. That is, it's first for this applicant tracking system, which doesn't have like a human sense on it. So it's looking at keywords. It might be parsing your resume and trying to understand who you are. There are now systems that also include your website as part of it. So it's important to have a readable website. But your resume is probably most important very early on. By the time you get to this second manager or even like the team lead, you're probably going to be answering portfolio questions, not resume questions. So resume is really important out of the gate. With that in mind, we should optimize for these review systems to be reading instead of human reviewers. Right now, this is very human friendly. It's very pretty, right? You've got this thing here, you've got this tag here, you have logos and pictures here, and that's not going to matter for most of these ATS systems. Instead, what matters is your structure. A human can look at this easily and say, "Hey, this is one column, right?" A human easily says, like, this is clearly a section. And these are different sections here. But an ATS system that's reading this may not have that ability to determine sections, which is why even when we were doing that copy paste, we could see that this column here was blending into this column here, just going straight across. And so I would recommend avoid column layouts in your resume. Instead, just do stacked rows. So you should do a row that's your name, then this contact information, I put it underneath your name. And then if you want to keep a summary, we'll talk about summaries. Summaries would go underneath your contact information. And then you'd have your experience. Then you do your education, and then you do your skills and tools. I just go straight down. I would not use a column over here. I do want to point out for your links over here, it's also a good idea to spell out your links. So instead of writing Ling's portfolio, just put your full website as text in here. If you write out that text, it means that if someone were to take a screenshot or someone shares a version of your PDF where the PDF link isn't valid, like here, I can obviously hover over this, I can click it, and it takes me someplace. Same thing with your email, but in your LinkedIn. But if I was looking at this quickly or if I was scanning this as a parser, like I was just copy pasting it, I'm probably not going to be able to copy the link to this unless you have certain markdown affordances in the tool, which is not always true. So it's just a good idea to spell the whole link out. Uh, and it doesn't look as nice, but it is more effective and safer. It's a safer bet. Nate, any pushback on that?
No pushback on my side whatsoever. Tim did mention Docs. If you have a preference for Microsoft Word, Claude does integrate directly with Microsoft Word. Does Claude have any Google Docs shenanigans yet, or is that still the Gemini competition barrier?
There is a Google Drive and Google Doc tool through the API, but you have to set up a developer account for it and establish your
Ah,
billing cycle. And then you're also rate limited. And it's like, it's basically free, but it's not free. So we've run into this, right?
and complicated
So
is what I'm hearing.
yeah, it's complicated. So you can do it manually, or you can use Gemini. Gemini does also do really well with PDF creation. Um, but I would just, I mean, a Word doc, you're going to be mincing these words. You're going to be moving keywords around so much. You might as well just have a actual Google Doc or Microsoft Word document that you can go in and manually update a word or two or fix a sentence here and there over time.
Luna, there's one last thing I want to talk about here, and this is not the last thing we could talk about. One of the things Tim and I do on these calls is we really try to prioritize what are the things you should be most actionable on right now, as opposed to describing every possible thing you could do. I think the most actionable things for you are three things specifically. Number one is switching this resume to Microsoft Word or Google Docs, either one. I really admire Tim's advice here of switching a single column. That's going to help with ATSs heavily. And then the third thing I think is going to be most impactful for you is adding more content. Now, this is kind of a funky one. So the conundrum is because ATSs are now the first unit of filtration, ATSs have like a keyword SEO strategy to them. They're taking job description A, matching it to candidate A, and figuring out where those key phrases overlap. They're looking for what are referred to as KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities. And ideally, the more KSAs you have on your resume that match the job description, the higher ranked, like quote unquote ranked, your resume will be when applying for jobs. So one of the ways we can get away with this, or better, the tactic here is just add more content to your resume. Now, there are some caveats, there are exceptions to every rule, but one of the quandaries I'm seeing with your resume is that it's very low in word count, which means everybody else who are applying with higher word density resumes will have a higher likelihood chance of hitting those KSAs. Heavily recommend, if you're able, just switch to a 2-page resume. Make each of your experiences more in depth if you can justify it. If you can't, stick with the 1 page, but like add more content in there with the objective of hitting those KSAs. And there are strategies to that as well. We could talk about writing bullets on the next call. But how are you feeling about those 3 actionables so far? Switching to Microsoft Word or Google Docs, making it single column, and then adding more content, filling out the entire page with as much verbiage as possible. How are you feeling about those 3 priorities?
Yeah, I'll try. Okay, make a single column.
All right, cool. Would love to
Okay.
see you come back though, because those are 3 great actionables. There's deeper stuff to talk about. We won't have time to talk about like your bullet formatting, which I think would be the next thing I'd want to talk about, but that's kind of a lengthier conversation. Chances are, if you want to stick around, chances are we'll talk about it with somebody else. But I think those are the top 3 actionables for you. And if you end up doing those, would love to see you come back for a future Friday and we can dig even deeper. Does that work for you?
And this will work for me.
Excellent. Tim, any last words?
No, just I would love to acknowledge it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and you've already done so much work. And so anyone out there who feels like they might be hearing this feedback or advice, and you're like frustrated or you hate writing resumes because you're just like me, and I hate writing a resume as well, and it's tedious and time consuming, and all of those things. Just remember you've done a lot of work, and that doesn't mean there's not more work ahead. But the work you've done is valuable. It is important. It's just steps. We're moving towards a direction, and you're moving in the right direction. So thanks for being here, Luna. We look forward to seeing you next week or any future week when you have time for this.
The work never ends. Next on the list is Shavtis.
Let's get them up here.
Shavtis, if you're out there, put that hand up in the
Boom.
air, or Tim will find you.
Let's open this.
Hello, guys. Is my audio
Hello.
okay?
I think it's all right. It might be a tiny bit quiet, but it's also like a good quiet, like a soothing quiet.
A mellow quiet.
No, okay.
Can you tell us
So,
what we should call you today?
yeah, my name is David. I'm targeting a product designer position, and currently I'm working in an IT corporation and thinking about finding something else, some better position. I have web design and UX UI design background, and I'm trying to show my experience as a product design experience, and would like to have any feedback.
Nate, did you catch the name? I wasn't sure quite what you said for your name.
I thought I heard David. Is that accurate?
Yeah, David.
Okay.
How does one
Nice,
pronounce the name in the title of the navigation menu?
Vidlane.
Vidlane. Is that what's that name?
That's from my first name and second name.
Got it.
Middle
Okay.
name.
Are you going with David for our benefit today? Do you go by Vidlane in Russia?
That's just for the site name. I go by David.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Cool. Hey, tell me about what's the problem you're trying to solve? Are you trying to get hired at an organization?
Yeah, I don't have any product experience. I have in my portfolio I have some web pages, but I don't I'm not sure if that's the experience that's suitable for product designers. So I would like to know if mm, maybe is my experience okay. I'm currently actively working on my portfolio, on my cases. I would like to show more uh, analysis, more UX research in them, but it's still a work in progress.
Okay. So if I'm piecing together, David, what you've said so far, you are looking for a product designer role. You are currently building and refining your content here. Uh, are you looking for a full time position, like to be in house at a company?
Yes.
Okay, in a full time position. All right. Well, there's a lot to look at here. Dave, we can talk about positioning. We can go through your portfolio and do like a visual kind of walkthrough. We can do like accessibility test, not accessibility testing, but like the accessibility and matching of your target audiences here across your portfolio, or we could even dive into a case study. But probably don't have time for one of those things. Do you have a sense for what you like to work on the most right now? Whether that is like maybe your strategy or who to focus on or about like refining your actual website?
Yeah, I would like to know who to focus on, like the target audience, maybe. Is my website okay for this, for the
Absolutely.
hiring management?
So strategy content. How do you feel about that, Nate?
I don't mind I'm hearing it's more of a positioning conversation, and I don't mind that direction.
All right, let's do it.
David, stoked that you're able to hop here and talk with us. Positioning is a deep subject for which there are many books behind me that are dedicated to. There are college degrees, of course, dedicated to. The quandary is there are a lot of different things we could talk about, and we only have about 20 minutes to have that chat. So I would like to narrow down what I think are the most impactful things for your positioning if your goal is trying to get to a product design position at an FTE somewhere, as an FTE somewhere. So there are typically two things that Tim and I like to talk about. One is the value prop, and then the other is the strategy of how you go about refining your target audience and building a niche. Now, let's talk about a niche first. What Tim, hold me back. Is that direction sounding okay with you?
I think if we take niche a little bit more broadly to mean product, UX, or UI, I think it's going to be okay. I do think if we go industry niche, it may be a little too deep for where David is right now.
Got it. Okay. Let's do this then, David.
Maybe
So
we could
one
probe.
of the
Let's probe and see if we have to pull the gas pedal back.
Got it. All right, cool. Let's start with your value prop then, David. And the value prop is that very first text on your homepage there. It currently states UX, UI designer with front end skills. I help products look thoughtful and run reliably. And I love the mindset here. Like your intention here is clearly in the right place. Your goal here is to describe who you are, what you do. The quandary with this current value prop is that it doesn't differentiate you from that of other candidates. And the idea here is I can take that value prop, I can put it on Tim's portfolio, and it still makes sense for Tim. So the quandary is if 40 people apply for the same job and you're one of those 40 folk, you're not standing out in any fashion. You're just another one of the applicants. And the goal would be to differentiate and have you stand out in some fashion. And there are a lot of different ways we can build a differentiation. Some of those differentiators include choosing industry, some differentiators include exposing skill set. There are lots of different methods of achieving this. Some even are dedicated to like tools, like, oh, I specialize in using AutoCAD. Like that's going to differentiate you from that of other candidates, right? So the quandary is, or the thing that I'd like to move forward to is, let's see if we can build you a value prop that differentiates you from that of other candidates. There are a lot of ways we could take that conversation, many of which are too in depth for this call. But the goal for you, or the challenge rather, is can you write something on here that can't be copied and pasted to another person's portfolio? How is that sounding with you so far? Do you feel like you've got some actionability there to adjust the value prop to best represent you apart from other candidates?
That's interesting direction. I would like to deep dive in it, but I'm not sure what I should mention. How can I differentiate myself from other candidates? Like, I have skills in some, let's say, in video, in photo production, in 3D software somewhat, but I'm not sure if it's relevant to a position that I'm looking for.
Tim, I'm hearing that we should dive deeper. How you feeling about that?
Yes, and we should also add the relative caveat that David, what you're struggling with is super normal, and we're all struggling with it. Because as you differentiate, the thing we tend to differentiate on is what are people looking for, and that means you have to be a mind reader. And I am not a mind reader, even though occasionally I do look deep into the camera and stare into your soul. I'm just not a mind reader. So it's tough. It can be really tough to differentiate and do and like get here. So we'll help you. We'll work with you and give you some insight, the stuff that we know that you could do. But also you're gonna have to trust yourself. So let's see where we can go with this. Let's push deeper.
Writing a value prop is really easy to say and really tough to do. We have built a utility to help with this. So if one heads over to designshaped.com, Tim will provide a link in the chat. The we have a resources tab. And if you haven't visited Design Shaped recently, you'll see that there is new stuff to be found here. But under the resources tab is the Find Your Positioning link. And the objective here, there's a mindset shift that we're trying to instill. And that is when we say the word niche, a lot of folk perceive the word niche as I need to dedicate myself to a particular industry and specialize there. Now, the mindset shift that we're trying to invoke here is that niche is beyond that of just industry. It may not even have to include industry. There are lots of different opinions you probably have about product design that you didn't know you have. So this is going to force you to make some of those decisions. And after you're done filling this out, it's going to attempt to generate a value prop for you. Now, whether or not the value prop is perfect for you, it should at least give you a good barometer by which you can start, then iterate from and move forward from there. So like as Tim scrolls through this, it's going to ask you what your role is. In your case, product design is where you're trying to position yourself. And then it's going to give you these sliders with the objective of forcing you to make some decisions. And know that these decisions have trade-offs. So are you a specialist or a generalist? There's a little trade-off drop down there to walk you through what are the advantages and sacrifices with this. And every slider has advantages and sacrifices. Moving down, are you an individual contributor or do you want to focus more on team leadership? Do you want to work on a design team or do you want to work more on a products team? And moving on. So these are all opinions that you probably have, maybe some you don't. But at the end of this, it's going to generate a value prop that's going to focus on the opinions that you do have, thus building the shape of who you want to be as a designer, building your niche. How are you feeling about that so far, David? Is all of that making sense? Do you feel like you can hop on there and answer some of these questions and force it to write some sort of draft one value prop that you can iterate from?
Yeah, that seems interesting. Do I need to fill it right now, or can
You
I
can
do
fill it
this
out
later?
You can use
whenever
it
you
anytime.
want.
You use it anytime. Yeah, it's on the internet. You can access it pretty much anywhere. And let us know if it gives you
Okay.
troubles. We do have a Cloudflare check, and if anyone's like running into this, and you're not actually artificial intelligence, just let us know. We'll tune that for you. I do want to point out just really quickly that when we're talking about positioning, one of the reasons and like things about positioning is that we're trying to solve a problem, right? Like quintessentially, when we're looking at like your flow chart for like when you're trying to get a job, yes, you are trying to get a job, but also there's a company, and that company is trying to solve a problem. And every company is trying to solve slightly different problems, but generally, they already know some of what they need. And it's your goal that when you apply, and when you're writing your resume, your portfolio, that you can show them that you can solve the problems that they need solved. And often when it comes to like a full-time, like an in-house designer, that means being the kind of person who can learn to solve the problems that they need, rather than just being able to like one shot solve a problem. So for example, if you lean like specialist, if you're like, yes, my specialty is at 100% I can build a website. Well, if that company already has a website built, they might pass you by. Whereas instead, if you say like, yes, I can build websites, but I also can do like some back end work, or I can do logos as well. And as you start to move to this generalist, you might find yourself in a better position for some of these full time companies, depending on what the company in this standard in the industry is. Your mileage might vary on that, so don't take that as like super gospel. But just pointing out again, even when you get down here, you're talking with human reviewers, or any part of like this cross team kind of conversations that will happen in your group tasks, knowing where you stand and having basically like a one-liner sentence that you can say, yes, I prefer to be on product teams because I like working with teams that measure their outcomes, or I like being on teams that are connected to the business, is a very strong way of like introducing an informed opinion that can make you a much more favorable candidate just because you know and you've thought about the problem. Even if it's not like you're a perfect fit, they can see how you would work and you're more qualified because you've at least broached a topic. How do you feel? Would you push back on that at all, Nate? Do I err in saying any of that?
No, I love everything you're describing.
The cool thing about this tool is that it's a great place to start, but I wouldn't end here. I'd let this kind of help. Like, let's just choose a couple. So, enterprise, probably let's say healthcare enterprise. That sounds familiar. And you want to work maybe with like new teams, so seed A, maybe idea stage, and you're focused on conversion, growth, and probably like 0 to 1 launches. Once you generate your kit here, give it just a little bit of time, courtesy of the API we have here. It'll help you kind of decide, like, just basically help you identify the decisions that you've already made and how to phrase those. And then you can lean into this or you can lean out of it. You can say, actually, now that I look at this, consumer product design for pre-product stages and startups, I really don't want to work up in. I don't want to work in a startup or be pre-product. And then you get to go say, look at your niche and say, what exactly is pointing me to this direction, and how do I adjust my positioning so people see me the way I actually want to be seen, and not just using words that I've repeated from other people. And that can be a cool place to just kind of. We'll have to fix the scroll here. The sidebar scroll is a little bug. We'll fix. But it's like it's just a cool place to go. So even here, like bio, you could start here. We can see if we look at how in depth this is. I focus on 0 to 1 phase for consumer startups, talking about who you work for, what kind of challenges you take on, and then a little bit about who you are here. And so this is already making it more differentiable from others, but also giving people an easy way to start identifying where you stand on the spectrum and being able to sort you as they sift through other candidates. Any thoughts, pushback there, David?
Yeah, I need to check this out and see what I can get out of it.
Yeah, so this is a great utility to at least get you started. The reason Tim and I are honing in on this so assertively is that the rest of your portfolio then has to be tactical to your positioning. So the rest of your portfolio has to match. So we would then say like, okay, let's figure out David's positioning, let's hone that in, and now let's review the case studies and validate, oh, this case study is assisting with David's positioning correctly. And if it's not, we'd want to alter it to best point back to your positioning, thus differentiating you as a candidate from all the other folk. So it's a real high level abstract concept that has real tactical results in how we manage your portfolio and how we build around a target audience. There are other things we could talk about. Just now, I'm looking at the clock. How are you feeling about all of that so far? Do you feel like you've got some actionables to take away from, or is there another like friction point we could cover very quickly that you're thinking you're having?
Maybe just about the visuals of the site. Is it okay? Is it what's needed for the for the specialist website?
Should we do a quick blitz walkthrough, Nate? Is that okay?
Yeah, give it a shot. Though I will say, David, the aesthetic of your site is also a tactic of positioning. So without the deeper knowledge on who you're targeting just yet, we won't have like objective criteria for you. But Tim has far more experience on the UI side of things than I do, and I'm going to let him take over a lot of the conversation.
David, when you're choosing the way something looks, you are making a statement, an opinion about who should be looking at your website. And right now, your website is very developer themed. which would speak to me that if I was a developer, I should be looking at your website. Uh, the caveat is that if I'm not a developer and I come to your website, this style is probably foreign to me. And we know that the people who are probably hiring you, right, when we're talking about who's checking you out, like they got to vibe check your portfolio, who's going to scan and choose you right here, uh, these people are probably not developers. These human managers who are first going to decide if you pass or fail are going to be normal people who are very focused on HR stuff about team operations, but maybe don't really know what developers do or what designers even do or any of that kind of stuff. And so just kind of watch out that when you lean a certain direction in aesthetic, you're making an opinion about who your website is for. I would probably recommend softening this a little bit. I think it's very cool to lean into designer and developer, especially with a front end skill focus, because this does inform people about what you're good at and what your niche is. So you've already made some niche opinions here. Just make sure that you're not accidentally ostracizing those who will be reviewing your content. Um, if I can point out a couple things for you, though, I would definitely say when we're talking about like what a portfolio needs to do, it should introduce you and then it should help identify why you're valuable. And right now, I don't see a lot of introduction to you. This is about that positioning statement, right? Like I don't know your name here in the front at all. I could look up here and see your logo, but I would like to see your name. Human psychology teaches us that images can be very powerful for memory, especially human faces. It turns out that it's advantageous for our brains to remember the way someone's human face looks. So, including like a picture or a portrait of you can be a really good hook to helping people remember you. Make sure it's professional because like first impressions do matter and it'll stick with them for a while. This little dot up here is a very common AI pattern, whether or not it was intelligence generator or designed or assisted, does not really matter to me. It's just that it does evoke this sense of, oh, this was AI generated and someone didn't review it. So I would recommend probably just reviewing that part of it and letting your portfolio speak for itself. Adding more content here, like I said, introducing yourself. In terms of accessibility, I do think that this doesn't pass accessibility, but it is very cool looking. um, you have the classic eyebrow and subheader pattern right now, which is kind of like double labeling stuff. And I don't think you need to double label these. I think you could delete one of these labels and keep the other label across here. And then lastly, last quick bit of feedback I'll give you while we have time here is just introducing your portfolio here, your studies. If you notice, if I was a reviewer and I wanted to come look at this, these names, Teleport Film, Digex Market, VAJ Center. This doesn't help me make an opinion about what to choose almost at all, but this content over here does. And so I would actually recommend moving this content to a place that is easier for me to scan and see your content, right? Because this is where the heading is. So I see the name, I see quickly what it was. I get to read it really quickly and then doing something. The image might be able to stay here, but increasing basically my ability to scan really fast as I'm running, probably left, up, down through your website. Or if you're in a country or a language that is more right side focused, having it on that side. So that way, when I'm scanning this really fast, when I'm doing basically the vibe check, I'm able to effectively get through the content. And I would say, otherwise, though, like it's definitely competent. There's some good stuff in here. Uh, that is going to be my quick little blitz on your landing page there. So, David, hopefully that's helpful for you. Appreciate your time today, though, and I would look forward to seeing maybe what your positioning ends up being for you and how you use that tool. And let us know if you have feedback. Honestly,
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next on the list, we've got Anusha with an underscore at the beginning of their name, and I have a link to them in the chat if you're looking for them, Tim.
I am. I see them. Hello.
Lynn, the tool that Tim is using is called VizBug. I'll write it in the chat for folks.
Hello, hi.
Hello. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I am Anusha. So I am a fresher as of now. So little bit about me. Fun fact that I am a dancer from past 15 years. I did my bachelor's in fashion design, but I switched to UX UI. But I was, leaned more towards UX UI. It's just I'm creative, and I've started to ask a lot of why before, jumping straight to what. This is what inclined me towards UX UI. So I am looking for jobs as of now. I'm completing my portfolio, so I just wanted to have a review on it. So yeah.
Okay, great. Uh, can you tell us more about maybe the specific thing you want to lean on today, like what we can specifically focus today for you, and then just clarify a little bit more about what kind of job you might be looking for. If you're just like anything will do, that's also fine. But if you're looking for like in-house work or contract work, freelance work, uh, if you can clarify more there for me.
Yeah, I'm looking for an in-house work as of now. Also, I would prefer having a review on my one of the case studies. That is the first one, and also an overall look of what portfolio is looking to you as of now. Is it good? It is recruiter friendly or not? I mean, I'm not sure. Actually, I'm fresh, and so just want to have something. Maybe.
Okay. Okay, Nate. Where should we start here?
Anusha, did you end up reading Simon Sinek's Start with Why?
No, not as of now.
I'm looking at the paragraph you've got underneath your hero dedicated to the why before what, and that's a lot of Simon Sinek's
Mhm.
rhetoric. Fun author, though I would argue his online lectures are more effective than his books are. But I really like his rhetoric. Let's see. There are a bunch of different directions we could take the conversation. I'm hearing you're pivoting to UX UI. You're still working on your portfolio. What's the elevation of position you're targeting right now?
I'm not sure about it.
Got it. Okay, cool.
I mean, I
Let's
did not get what you were asking.
yeah, like junior mid level, junior mid senior.
Yes, yes, yes,
Got it. Okay, cool. So
yes.
I'm hearing you're still
Junior,
unsure
junior.
on where to position. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Neat. If that's the case, I'm going to default to validating you at a junior level. Though as we look through, we'll see if that is mimicked within your like case studies and that sort. Let's see. I'm whenever I provide feedback, I heavily stay away from subjectivity, intentionally so, and I try to stick on the theory, the objectivity of the goals and the audience. However, we can't progress forward if we don't talk about that cursor. Tim, how are you feeling about that mouse cursor?
Yeah. Let's clarify by saying it's important to present opinions and choices. That's part of design, right? Design is really just making choices and having opinions on things. And so, having opinions is a very strong way to introduce yourself. And I think you should have some opinions. I love some of the opinions that you've chosen, including like the color accent, having the consistent little back shadow that's offset here. I think those are great opinions to have. I do want to say there are sometimes opinions though that can go against the flow of what a user is expecting and may decrease the actual UX of a platform by making it less accessible, harder to use, or by flipping things in a way that's frustrating for users. And there's two big candidates here that tend to be the biggest problems for people. People will know I'm not a fan of scroll jacking. That's when you change the way a website scrolls. Apple used to do this all the time, and thankfully they're getting away from it. But the second thing is changing your cursor across the whole website. So you'll notice that a cursor has a specific role which informs a user what they can interact with and kind of where they are in terms of like a finger. And so you can imagine like the precision of it is such that it tells a user exactly where their mouse is when they're interacting with a website and orients them a little bit. It's kind of like it's like a little thing you watch. You follow your cursor sometimes more than you follow your own eyes. Uh, your website is using a custom cursor, which is cool, but that cursor has no precision value to it. It's so blurred, it makes it very difficult to see what exactly I'm highlighting, interacting with. It also, I mean, it does have affordances for hover and interactivity. That's pretty good. But I would say this qualifies as one of those moments of this is a very cool thing. It is probably extremely detrimental to the experience and usability of your website. Uh, and I would recommend amending your cursor here to something different that would favor probably the default experience 90% of the time, with maybe like a little fun box or a little area maybe on top of your image or something that uses this custom cursor, but in a contained environment that users can optionally participate in rather than across the whole website.
Sure, got it.
Okay. Well, then let's look across the rest of this. I do want to know your stack. I'm curious if this is meant to be like what level of development you're in, because right now you have some placeholders, right? You have like I'm just gonna turn this on so I can see my cursor. You have recently shipped case studies, case study 1, 2, and 3, but they're definitely placeholders. I would assume here.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
okay, that's okay. That's really cool. Why before the what? I'm a why person. Uh, very cool. And then we have your case studies down here. You see if you just can't find it. Cool. Things I'm fond of. Nate, there's a lot of practical things we could comment on, but I want to make sure what we comment on is valuable. And I'm wondering what you think the highest value item for this portfolio is, just before I include any other tidbits about practical stuff.
I'm looking through this portfolio, Anusha. I think you're doing a lot of things here really well. And I'm in a bizarre crossroads where it feels like you're targeting junior, except that your portfolio is doing a lot of things that I would expect to find in higher elevated positions. Now, what's wild about this is like if I look at your case study number one, the item that you mentioned you wanted to focus a little bit on, your storytelling
Right.
here is incredible. If I scroll down, like one of the first titles I read, my cousin spent 8 minutes scrolling through her phone looking for a recipe she'd saved. We never found it. Like you're starting the story here strongly. And in regard to engagement, I think this portfolio does, or this case study does a lot of job here in the storytelling. The caveat being the story that you are telling is positioning you to that of junior level candidacy. So like if a business is hiring an or hiring a designer, they would ideally hire designers that have experience solving business problems, and you're solving a problem that your cousin has. So there's a juxtaposition to the outcomes and problems that companies are hiring for versus you solving these very real problems, just not specific to that of higher level candidacy. So like I think your maturity. What's the metaphor that I would use here? Like that metaphor where I am not a great painter, but my taste is of a higher level of painting than my capability is. So it's like your taste in
Mhm.
product design and portfolio development is beyond where your current product portfolio, your product case studies are, and now it's just getting you a little bit of experience to showcase some of it. Let me pause here. Is that sounding reminiscent to where your mind is at, or am I off the path here?
No, no, you are good. Yeah, I am understanding what you're trying to say. I'm on.
But like scrolling through this case study, there's a lot of stuff here I really like. The storytelling's fantastic. You're using metrics heavily. You're pivoting away from fashion. Are any of your case studies based on business problems, or are these all conceptual?
They are not conceptual because I have already talked to a lot of users and I also tested it, but it is not also a business problem as of now, what I mean, if I'm, able to make you understand.
I think I'm understanding. Let me repeat that back to you. I'm hearing that each of your case studies are solving real world problems. The caveat
Yeah,
being an organization isn't hiring you to solve those problems. These are self initiated projects. Is that sounding right?
right,
Got it.
right.
All right, cool. Yeah, totally understand the conundrum there. Ideally, we showcase uh, business problems that folks had hired you for, but when one doesn't have that, I think what you're doing here is a fantastic fallback. Tim, I'm sort of at a loss on where to go next. There are certainly some things I've written down that we could talk about, but they're somewhat not as valuable. Like I'm missing a higher value item is where my gut is. What are you looking at?
Okay. For me, I would say one thing we often talk about with people is what we call the 3 J's, which is jolt, journey, jackpot, which is like your hook, Then the storytelling. Let's see if I get this. The storytelling, and then also like having a fun thing or like something that rewards the user for looking at this. And honestly, if I'm being honest with the storytelling, I think Nate is absolutely right. Like you have a cohesive story here that effectively attaches a why and a motivation to what you're doing. Uh, that story, I think, does a lot of the work for you, which as it should. There is a problem for me though of maybe quality control. And there's let me flag some things I think people are going to run into that may give you resistance, which is one, in some of your copywriting, there are clear patterns that I'm familiar with AI suggesting a lot of times. That's not to say that the story is completely AI generated or even completely AI written, but there's a couple places where it's very obvious that it's AI writing, and those obvious parts can undermine the entire basis and credibility of your case study. It also can take people really out of the momentum and be distracting. So one pattern we often see and comment on, I feel like I say this every single time now, but it's AI has a habit of doing it's not this, it's that. So we see here the problem isn't saving, it's that, which is we just see this a lot in AI writing. Another thing we often hear AI do is it's a little bit um, too affirmative and often identifies things as being unique when they're really not unique. And so a phrase that you often see is like nobody does this. Like you're doing something that no one else does, or this is solving a problem that has never been solved. It's this kind of like very it's that no one, nobody, no other person, none of them think, is very clear, it's like a very clear AI pattern. Now, it's possible that you are just genius in your own way and you've arrived at this and the AI is actually copying you and how you write. But in the flip side, if you have used AI to write this, just keep in mind that someone who's read a lot of AI content may come across this and may be scrambled and disoriented from kind of getting out of the moment with it. The second thing is that a lot of these images, I think the images are good in a lot of ways, but also feel very AI generated to me. And again, that more than like hurting the story, kind of undermines your credibility across it and makes it feel like it's maybe less your work than before. Uh, First impressions matter a lot for people. And if the first impression of something is, wow, this is an AI generated image, they go into the entire case study with that as like the basis. And that is like your credentials is something that looks very AI. Now, possibly you didn't use AI to create these images. I'm not sure. But the appearance of that thing is almost more important than the actual did you use the thing, because it communicates a certain level of work, having defaults, etc. So those would be some quality control items that concern me a little bit. And then thirdly, I'd say you have a great story in here. I don't see any of the story here, right? We have you saved it, you just can't find it. I would love to see maybe a smaller description or something here that talks about in more like a more professional way that kind of like maybe steps out of the story slightly and explains some of your process. If we go back to our chart here about people going through the application process, there's a keyword focus early on for people, especially when they're looking at projects and when they get to your portfolio and they don't have time to get through the whole story. That doesn't mean you should shorten the story. It just means you need to plan for people to only look at parts of your story and still understand the whole. And that means on this landing page, sorry, I keep going back and forth. It means on your landing page, you need to design a way for someone to look at all these projects at a glance and understand reasonably what you did across here and which is valuable. If I'm hiring for a team that needs a UX, like UX research, I want to be able to go over here and say quickly which one of these involved user research. And you might say, hey, you saved it, you just can't find it. Uh, Using user research to inform the design for an app about saving a content that transcends normal bounds and is app agnostic. And then I know right away, oh, this project nudge, which is very cleverly named here and very like friendly to look at, also has the thing I'm looking for. And now I know which project to look at rather than maybe clicking the wrong one or being off put by a little bit of the AI here. And that includes also the
Got it.
top here, the top of your case studies for including maybe better summaries up here. Oh, you do have an executive summary here, but maybe something that's a little bit more like, oh, there it is too. Research processes here. I think maybe having it inside the bubble kind of makes it harder to capture because there's like title, another title, and then a small title here. That may, and then you also have an image here. And so I think maybe the information architecture right here, the visual hierarchy of sandwiching image, title, comment block for your summary, and then another image may vary the comments here a little bit. That'd be my quick thing there. How do you feel about that?
Got it? Got it? I understood what you were trying to say. I just do the changes and try to make it more, not look AI-ish as of now. Yeah.
Hey, AI can be a tool for accomplishing a lot of things. The challenge that we have with AI right now is that it is so good at getting to the 80% mark that a lot of people are willing to accept that as a final product. And what this has meant is that it devalues that first 80% of the work being done, but slates the value towards that last 20%. And so, even though you may have spent time prompting this, really improving the quality, doing quality control on it, or getting this to a certain place, um, like the 80% work is no longer acceptable anymore because AI now does it and people see that as like a measure of effort and care and craft. And whenever craft comes in, it needs to feel like it was high friction. So making the craft feel like it's very intense goes a long ways for helping people to value the work that you've done. It's perceived value. So,
Got it?
okay. Okay. Nate, anything else here?
Not as of now.
Let's see. I don't think I have anything additional to add beyond what has already been stated. Tim, I think you've mentioned a lot of things here that's really accurate. Anusha, I'm still on this first case study here. I haven't looked at the other ones. The only thing that's coming to mind for me is like, I love how you've positioned this story. You don't even start talking about the design output until 3/4 down the page, which, if your goal is targeting product design or UX design, is the right call. If your goal is targeting UI design, we'd probably want to see it higher up, but I like the outline of your story here. The only thing that really comes to mind is we introduced the story with solving a problem for your cousin. And if we could find a way to introduce the story of like solving a problem that is currently available on the market, as opposed to like this personal thing you've got connection with, I think it would just absolutely elevate the case study to, rather than being like a junior personal problem you're solving, it's now solving a real world business problem. I think we just pivot the story very slightly to remove the cousin from the story, and then it becomes a real business portfolio case study. How are you feeling about that? Is that even possible for the story you're trying to tell, or is that an applicable like story that we can manipulate in some fashion?
Mm-hmm. It is possible. I'll surely try to do that and understand if it's fitting the, layout of the project as well or not. And I'll surely add it in there, what you have said.
Tim, challenge me on that.
Yeah, I'll challenge you just slightly. I like that it opens with a personal story, but only because you demonstrate a long process. And so this feels like a hook for me rather than like a premise for the entire thing happening. And I think you pivot away from it very quickly by grounding yourself in other things, talking to other people, and kind of discussing the problem at length. So I think your mileage is going to vary. It does kind of have the sense at first of maybe being a little bit more of a junior problem to solve, but then the breadth that you take the whole project across, I think redeems it. So for me, it's a non-issue.
Final thought here, Tim. Go ahead and open up Design Shaped, and let's pull down the resource dedicated to the levels framework. We may have to rename some of these pages. Anusha, the problem I'm trying to solve here is that it sounds like you're unsure of what position, what elevation you're currently at. Here's a graphic that Tim and I have produced. This information has been inspired and heavily sourced from the book Product Design, Org Design for Design Orgs. That's the one. Tricky name, right? It's an O'Reilly book. But the objective here is, if you believe you are a junior product designer, you can go through these columns and see like where among these columns you feel like you best fit. And chances are you'll look through these columns And you'll see like, oh, I'm a little bit of level 3 on this particular category, and I'm a little bit of level 1 on this particular category. But this should ideally enable you to figure out and validate like what elevation you should be applying for or where you're currently positioned. Link, go ahead and add a link to that link. Tim, go ahead and add a link to that in the chat. But Anusha, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Really appreciate your willingness to hop on here.
Same here. Thank you so much for reviewing my portfolio and giving insights to it. Thank you so much.
Next on the list, we've got RaveSeiya, if that's how one pronounces it.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, my name's Randy. Sorry, I use Discord generally and haven't figured out how to make channel only names. So, yeah.
That's okay. I think Discord actually gates it as like a thing for Nitro. So you may not be in the wrong here.
That makes sense.
Is that the quandary? Yeah, Randy did. We were able to find the workaround of just removing everything before the actual verbiage. So remove HTTPS, and that gets us there.
Yeah, I've had this
Oh, I
URL
see.
for forever, and I didn't have the full thing, the www, when I initially made this. So that's probably why.
You can set up a redirect for it, but it's a complicated process, and I will not regale you with it now, other than that it is possible to solve for that.
I will keep that in mind. Cool. All right.
Randy, can you tell us a little bit about who you are? Maybe what some of your goals for this call today are, and where we can best support you.
Yeah. So I've tentatively been in UX for about 8 years when I pivoted through bootcamp, but I've worked in official capacity for about around 4. I was last in pharma advertising as a UX designer and product designer, but I'm currently post layoff as of 2 years ago, and I'm trying to get back into the viable candidate pool of things, given all the challenges, but I haven't had much luck. The very few bites I've had have not really aligned. Probably resume focused, but I think my portfolio has been like a huge point of contention for me, just in terms of trying to do something that doesn't make me feel dated, but also trying to stand out from what I feel is a very template heavy time for a lot of designers. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm communicating what I need to, or if there's something I need to change in general. But at least for today, my portfolio is like where I want to focus.
Okay. So if I was recapping, someone who's been in the design space for at least a couple of years, who has also been faced with just the tragic life events that happen, and is in a position that was outside of your power, but are trying to get back into the maybe in-house design work, or are you looking for freelance work?
Well, that's the other problem. Where I see myself in terms of level is different from what my last role was, just because of the nature of working in pharma agency. They're very much behind in terms of stuff. So I'm casting a wide net to find somewhere that I can obviously work, but also gain a better understanding of the stuff. So I'm kind of open to anything, which might be working against me too.
It's funny how that works, huh?
Yeah.
Not choosing a strategy is in fact a strategy, which can come back to bite you in the butt. Okay, Nate, do you have a sense of where you'd like to start with this? I have some comments, but I want to make sure we're focused.
I had a lawyer once tell me that not responding to legal threats is a very valid response to legal threats. Ignoring them is a perfectly applicable strategy in many cases. Not to suggest, we're diving into legality there. I've got a couple of things written down here, Randy, is that your name?
Yes.
Excellent. I've got a couple of things written down here, and so far they're all fairly like theory abstract based. We can certainly dive into a case study as well, but if there's one thing I think I'm hearing, it's that there's a mindset shift that I might want to slightly pivot, and that is, and maybe this is redundant to your current knowledge. One of the things Tim and I talk about on these calls is that your resume and your portfolio are marketing documents. One of the quandaries a lot of folk have is that they perceive these documents as archives accounting for one's career history that are factually accurate and depictful of your entire workforce as a career professional. There's another mindset, a competing mindset to that, and that is that these documents should depict who Randy wants to be and build the perception of where Randy wants to move forward with. So I would love, how are you feeling about that? Are you feeling like you have come to these assets, your resume and your portfolio, as factual documentaries as opposed to marketing documents? Is that resonating with you?
Yeah, it is. I think I've always approached my portfolio as like a documentation of my work, at least in terms of case studies. And it's only more recently, like over COVID, that I've leaned more into the personality side of things, with like who I am, from understanding what you were saying correctly.
Yeah, so let me say this in a different way. You had mentioned that your previous job title wasn't synonymous with how the industry standard is currently defining these job titles. What was that job title?
I was put at a senior level for my job title on my last two.
Okay. And
Which,
where do you feel like what title do you feel like you should be targeting?
mid-level.
Oh, interesting. I was expecting the other way
Yeah.
around. I was expecting the well, it doesn't change the story at all. So where I'm going with this is you could, on your resume and on your portfolio, write down that you were previously a senior product designer at this organization. And that positions you for this higher elevated thinking, diving more into business strategy and business acumen. Now, that is a factually accurate thing to say. You can position yourself for that candidacy level. If we were to instead position you around mid-level, which is potentially more accurate to your skill set and your capability, that is a factually incorrect thing to say based on your previous job, but a more reasonable depiction of who you are. So, like, we can ignore what your archive looks like, what your documentation looks like, and depict you more as the person that you're trying to position yourself around. And that's totally okay. There are asterisks in there of exceptions. Like at some point you'll get a job and you'll have to go through a background check and there may be some title misalignment. So there are conversations about that, though I have rarely ever found those to be a conundrum. But like, how are you feeling about that mindset that like, let's reposition this case study in your resume. Let's position this away from who you were 5 years ago, and let's position it to who you want to be moving forward. And then we can build that positioning. And then that wide net that you're describing of casting, we can then focus that net and then figure out exactly what organizations you feel you're most effective at being hired for. And if that's the case, I think we can skyrocket some of your efficiency here. How is that sounding with you? Is like that transition of wide net, who you were 5 years ago, to let's target the market of like who you want to be moving forward. Is that sounding okay with you?
Yeah, if I understand correctly, it's less about, it's more about looking more forward thinking, rather than looking at what I have currently, what it did for me before.
Yeah, and there's nuance in there, but Tim's got his hand on his chin like he has a thought.
Yes, a single thought. Randy, I don't want to. I want to be careful to not overhype people unfairly, but it sounds like if you got 2 roles at a senior level, you probably are at a senior level.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of in the mindset I am, because I gained valuable experience with those last 2 roles. The thing is, in your processes, it brings in a lot of contention, which I think is normal. But the reason why I say I'm probably not at the senior level that they put me as because of the experience I had where a lot of the people around me didn't know what UX was. So from my perception, the senior title was because I knew UX a lot better than the people I was working with, and that's where I was leaned on for. Yeah.
It sounds we'll move on. We'll move on quickly here, but it does sound a little bit like you're describing what any senior designer probably feels, which is they're a senior designer because they know UX more than the people around them. And it's always going to be relative. There's always going to be a little bit of, I could suggest possible imposter syndrome. Ultimately, you have to trust yourself, and we'll trust you as well to know where you're at. But I think I think it's a pretty healthy experience to feel like there's always more to learn, there's more to go. And the reason you get marked as a senior or more experienced person is generally just because you're willing to take accountability or responsibility to make some of these things happen, or to be a person who is central to that, regardless of whether you've worked in a place that's super, super crazy with their UI or super not crazy with their UI. Just being in that kind of strategy and thought leadership is I think what makes a senior designer probably a senior designer. So you describing your experience to me is what I'll say, Randy, reaffirms to me that you are probably in fact a senior designer, someone who is in the middle of contentious old practices, trying to migrate towards new best practices, and being the sole person who has to orchestrate that falls directly under senior category for me personally. But I digress. Nate, where should we go with this? Where should we take this from here?
Let's see. We could look at case studies. We can look at the homepage here. I'm tempted to stay abstract and talk theory. Like I really want to hone in on the phrase wide net, which I think is doing Randy a disservice here. But I'm fearful of not providing any sort of actionability for Randy, which is where these abstract conversations sometimes lie. How are you feeling about that, Tim? Any better directions you think we could take the conversation?
Yeah, I would say let me really quick before we go that far. Let me really quick plug in. Randy, you mentioned that there's like a look and a feel that you're kind of going for, trying to avoid templates, and I think that's exceptional. Avoid templates, do your thing. Keep in mind that what you design to look like though is probably where you're going, and that's a good thing. It also is just sometimes a limiting thing. For example, if you want to continue to be inside the pharma industry, possibly not. But if you wanted to, making your site look slightly more pharma industry like would help slit you that way. If you're trying to stay inside of a comic book world or more of a like nerd fandom world, which is totally valid, and there's a huge market there, huge, absolutely huge market. Uh, there's you're leaning into a style that probably suits that a little bit better as well. And so just knowing where you want to go, like Nate said, like your portfolio introduces people to who you are and where you're going, and then you prove your value under that very lens. And so I think it's cool. There's a lot of cool things here. Just keep in mind that what you show off will bias people to what you can do or what you're qualified to do. Nate,
Okay.
please take it away for us.
Well, so the final thought I have for you here, Randy, is that you mentioned wide net earlier. And when you say wide net, can you quickly describe what you mean by wide net? As in, my perception is you're applying for a lot of different roles in multiple industries. Is that sounding right, or is there a correction there?
That's accurate. I haven't had the best job search experience just in general. I got into pharma kind of by accident, and that's kind of where I landed. But I don't want to stay there just because I don't feel it aligns with like my purpose for being in UX UI. So I'm trying to expand out of that. Um, but I've run into the problem that I think a lot of people fall into, which is where you work last and some of the work you've done in official capacity often kind of pigeonholes you into that space.
Got it. Okay, understood. Pivoting away, or the goal is to pivot away from pharma. I'm in the
Okay.
healthcare space. I can understand the desire to move away from the healthcare space. Cool. So the quandary then is like, let's say we position you with this wide net, and you have the ability to apply for all of these jobs available. And now let's say there are 40 different jobs out there. You apply for all of them, and you will likely not get many responses back. So, my background is in marketing. Half the books behind me are in the marketing space, and all of them will argue the most important thing you can do is differentiate yourself. And then what they would say is target a particular niche of some kind. Now, were you here earlier when we were talking about like our definition of niche is not necessarily industry, but more of your shape as a designer? Were you here for that conversation?
I was, but I was also having some tech issues, so I
Nice.
may have missed
Yeah,
that.
no worries whatsoever. So what we're trying to get to here is, let's say we position you for a very particular niche of some kind. This does a couple of things, advantages and sacrifices. So let's say we position you. Let's say you're trying to get out of healthcare. We position you for I don't know. What's oh gosh, what's an industry outside of healthcare that's financial? Let's say we position you for financials. We write you a value prop that targets financials. We build your case study around financials, and your entire portfolio is now targeting the financial industry. Now, when you apply for financial jobs, you've got a real leg up from that of competition. The sacrifice there being you can no longer really apply for other jobs because you're specializing in one particular industry, or you have a skill set that focuses on the financial industry. Maybe you have a real background in regulations, for example, blah, blah, blah. So even though there are fewer jobs available out there for you to apply to, you then have a much greater chance of applying to them. So let's say another job comes out that's for Amazon or something like that, and you say, well, I want to apply for that job too, but I'm focused in this box now. I've been put in this financial box. Can I generalize a little bit more so I can also apply for that Amazon job? So let's say we remove your positioning, we extend your positioning, and we generalize you a little bit, and you apply for that Amazon job, but the problem is somebody else is also applying for that job that specializes in like cloud IT infrastructure, which better targets Amazon. So even then, you still get outbid for that job because you're positioning yourself with a more generalistic attitude. So in this metaphor, in this analogy, the only wise thing you can do is specialize in some particular fashion. And when I say specialize, building a niche that shapes you, that differentiates you from that of other candidates out there. How are you feeling about that feedback so far? Is that making sense? Any challenges with any of that?
It makes sense, and it aligns with what I've heard before. It's just kind of hard to frame that mindset around, finding a job, but it makes sense.
Yeah, it's scary to do too, because it's like you're saying goodbye to all the possibilities when you're like desperately trying to find a job. If we're measuring success by the amount of interviews you get, the niche strategy will increase your interview count despite lowering the amount of jobs you can apply for count. So if that's the metric of success, I promise you the niche route is going to be more effective for you. Tim's drawn a diagram here. Tim, walk us through the mountains.
Oh, it's just a good way to think about it. Where, if you were to say like on a chart, being at the top of the mountain means better visibility for jobs, and the bottom of the chart means more opportunity, like in general. So like, uh, being at the top of the mountain gives you the highest level of visibility everywhere. Like you are the guy for this. And it means that when someone has this very specific problem for a niche industry or etc., you're very clearly at the top of it. And you'll notice that if you try to choose to be at two mountains at the exact same time, what's in between two mountains is a valley, and the valley is at the bottom. And so just keeping in mind that there's times where it's good to be at the bottom of a mountain, and there's times to be at the top of the mountain. And typically, being up here at the top gives you the highest level of visibility and also credentials, and you'll be the choice pick when it comes to differentiating yourself. So, recommend differentiating yourself. That could be choosing an industry, right? You could be you're going to work for financial stuff. It could mean you choose a position where you are only product designer, never UI designer. It could be choosing a niche where you are like specifically working inside of an animation platform or software that other people don't usually work in. All of these can be things that generate that help differentiate you. I think you have a couple of differentiators on your portfolio already. For example, you have an animation background. You could lean into that way more. I think there's something competitive to a UX designer who is animation aware and knows what things are. There's actually a lot of there's a lot of movement in the industry right now for people who can do motion design. Being someone who has an animation background, you're probably well positioned to be a UX and product designer who can bring motion awareness and design into people's platforms. I also think there's something really powerful to having worked with pharma in the past. We're able to really look at a complex complex backends and constraints, and then work inside of those constraints to lead to a better solution where you're able to just which one was it? I think it's this one. Even here where you're like, here's like the old form, and then we made it a new form. And just being someone who can explain this and bring this and then positioning this like sort of mindset, I think is really, really valuable. So there are some positions that you've chosen to take across your
Mm,
website. uh, you probably just need to lean into those a little bit more beyond just your general look. The UI
mm,
is differentiating you, but maybe your copywriting, the story you're choosing to tell, who you're choosing to like pursue after, these all do have a natural funnel and outcome if you take the time to kind of pull it apart and kind of identify, which of these mountains do you most naturally stand on top of, and then do you want to go up that mountain or do you want to go down the mountain to a different mountain?
okay, that makes sense. To be honest, that kind of aligns with where my brain's been lately too. So you're
Okay.
validating a lot of things for me.
Just to leave you with
I'm,
some
I'm
sort of actionable, in the chat here, I'm linking to our positioning kit that should help you narrow down what the value prop looks like, give you at least a place to start with your positioning. Beyond that, how are you feeling? Do you feel like you've got any sort of takeaways that you can be actionable on, or is this all real abstract theory that's great in nature, but like how to move forward? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. You definitely gave me a direction to go in and just to lean more into finding what sets myself apart, which, to be honest, is what I've been trying to do with this whole portfolio thing in the first place. So it's good to know I'm in the right direction.
All right. Choosing a particular niche can be scary. Know that there are also strategies there. We don't have time to talk about them today, but you could, for example, build multiple portfolio sites that target individual niches, multiple resumes that target different niches. All of those are totally applicable strategies if you're fearful of putting yourself in a specific bucket. But I really appreciate you being willing to hop on this call with us today. I really appreciate the time.
No worries. Thank you for your feedback.
I'll also throw it out there, if you're really not sure where you want to, this is terrible. If you're really not sure where you want to position yourself as well, if you look at a historical, you can say make a chart. One column in this chart is love. It's a place that you like to work or something that you love to do. There's a value column. This is a place where you might know a lot. You might have like special knowledge or industry knowledge. You may be a little bit more qualified. And there's also monetary income. This would be like a column that says, does this meet my monetary goals? Can they afford me? And then you would list the name of a company, uh, or a team, right? Or something here. The more specific you can get, and you'll say, did I like working for that company? Yes or no. Did I actually do good work for them? Was I valuable in their team? Could they afford me? Could I afford them? And this will kind of help you identify where you fall and like say you always thought you liked being in startups, but you worked for 3 startups in the past and actually you hated all of them, and actually you did a lot of work for them without getting paid a lot. And you're like, wow, I don't want to work for startups anymore. And that can be a really good revelation when you're choosing what position to take in your strategy. So I'd also recommend that to you.
Okay, I'll give that a try as well. Thank you.
Tim, next on the list, we've got Salmaya V. I pinged them in the chat. They may not be here anymore. Salmaya, if you're out there, raise your hand.
Let's see. Do we not have? I thought we had someone else in front of them. I have Rave. Oh no, we just did his. Okay, sorry. And Ray Raygar. Nate, do you not have No, we did. That's a different one as well. What about the harmonicone? Are they after? Okay.
I've got them next. Yeah.
I'm getting there. I'm just looking through the chat. I do think. Whatever, let's do it.
Are they still here? Selmaya?
I'm inviting them up. Let's see. They're not here anymore.
All
I
right.
cannot invite them up.
The harmonicone. You are up next.
They're also not here.
Oh, Lamp. Are you still out there? Lamp.
Lamp is
Lamp.
here. Here we go. I also do want to address a comment. Someone said that we're not doing a very good job at reviewing portfolios if they're good or bad. And to that,
Hi.
I would say that's just not what Randy needed in that moment to talk about. We did talk about a lot of strategy and stuff here that will help him direct his own portfolio rather than our own opinions. Opinions are great, but objective strategy can be a little bit stronger. So
Yeah, there's an additional thought there, and that is we don't measure resumes and portfolios by good or bad. Every portfolio, every resume, every strategy has advantages and sacrifices, and we're much more interested in those. It'll be good for some things and bad for other things by default.
Lamp, can you introduce yourselves to us?
Hi. Well, okay, my Discord profile is Lamp, but my name is Henry Tran. I'm a web developer that does marketing as well.
Okay. Hello, Henry Tran. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're hoping to accomplish today, such as if you're a web developer who's looking to continue freelancing, move to a full-time engagement, maybe you're just like checking out your portfolio because you can. What brings you here?
So this is my work in progress of my portfolio redesign, and I just wanted to get it checked out and see what you guys think, and maybe like through this I can find more connections of either finding more work or either full time or even more freelance work.
Okay. Okay. I'll give you the quick caveat that finding freelance work is a very different pipeline from in-house design work that you typically associate with a full-time role. So they're going to have different mechanisms, and it may be that you'll have to choose a mountain to stand upon, whether you want to target full-time or you want to target freelance work. But that conversation pending, Nate, where do you think you want to take this?
I don't
Where
know,
should we
man.
go?
I'm still taking notes and looking at Henry's stuff. Henry, appreciate you being able to hop on here today. I know you were like looking at the clock. You were probably not expecting to be able to hop on, but I'm so glad you stuck around.
Yeah, like a long time viewer, first time.
Excellent, man. Appreciate you
happening.
hopping on here. I'm missing a vital piece here. I'm hearing background in marketing. Awesome, my people. Portfolio is a work in progress. Goal is getting to FTE somewhere. I've got freelance written down as a question mark, but Tim covered that already. Are you applying for jobs currently?
I'm applying for jobs currently, more in IT roles. I do have a graphic design degree. That's why I focus more on like web development, stuff like that, to get my footing into both worlds, like the IT world and the web design world.
Okay. And what positions are you applying for?
Mostly IT roles with was the app development because I use React to build this.
Is your goal to apply for IT roles, or are you trying to pivot over to the product design side of things?
I studied UX UI, and then like at first I was going towards like you said, product design, and I do have skills in there, but I see more IT roles being more prevalent in the job market.
Sure. Okay. Well, interesting. So where my mind is going with some of this feedback is that Tim and I are super capable at reviewing portfolios dedicated to product design and UX design and UI design. Less capable in regard to reviewing portfolios for IT. I didn't even know IT folk needed portfolios. The portfolio that you're showing today, what direction is this solving for you? Are you trying to use this portfolio to get those UX jobs?
Yes, yeah. I didn't really have a good footing into the product design field. That's why I started working IT. And maybe this would help me get it, like, since I have IT skills to back up my web development skills now, maybe I can get into more product design.
Got it. Would it then be okay if I ignore your IT background, with the exception of like building differentiation out of that, and then moving
Yeah.
forward with like your product design portfolio? Is that okay?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, cool. Cool.
Is this website currently in progress?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll try to ignore some of the buttons that don't work and focus mostly on the content side of it then, and also maybe the positioning part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I also notice that you're aiming for studio here. You have a studio logo. That is choosing an opinion. I do think that if you're choosing studio, you're going to have a hard time attracting an in-house role as a individual designer. What we do see is that people who are hiring in-house want to hire a person versus when you're hiring an agency or you're hiring for freelance, you're hiring for work, if that makes sense. So there's like a difference of like hiring for a project to be done versus hiring for a person to join your team. Those are two different mentalities, which means positioning yourself slightly differently. So just keep in mind that this studio language will probably differentiate you against being chosen for a full-time in-house kind of role. Maybe.
Uh-huh.
Well, let's get in here. Nate, there is a landing section here. There is some work sections, and that seems to be most of the website that's built right now. So,
Tim, have you clicked on that first case study? It is wild.
I haven't clicked on it yet because I want to make sure we spend some time here. So, Henry, when we're talking about portfolios, they introduce who you are and where you're going,
Mm-hmm.
and the goal here being that this is the first time someone meets you. So, there's a couple of general rules. When the first time you meet a person, you want to quickly identify and differentiate yourself. We are missing some of that differentiation, right? We do have web developer and marketing design. From a studio point of view, I do think that's probably appropriate. This does not really target a job title, though.
Mm.
And when we're looking at full time roles, they're posting a job.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are then checking to see are you the right person for that job, they don't know really what that job does. Often they're looking for the keywords and the job description focus as well as the ATS check. And so right away, I'm going to say if you want to be a UX designer or a product designer, you should just say product designer or
Product design.
UX designer,
Okay.
right? Identifying that out of the gate will make you differentiator. Now, the flip side is that if you're a studio and people want to hire you for work, this is exactly how you do it, right? You would identify yourself as I do web development and marketing design because that's a type of work that you can hire from me versus a person who is a product designer or a a UX designer. So just two different mindsets we're already seeing there. Love that's your name here. I love that it's not a normal serif or sans serif font here. Um, I might be missing maybe some visual cue here that makes you a little bit memorable. Faces are very sticky for human brains, and so we're missing maybe that little piece here. And then your
Okay.
statement here, we've talked a lot about positioning statements already, and I think Nate does want us to get to a case study, so we'll get into a case study to appease Nate before he throws his classic furious tantrums that we've all definitely seen before and can absolutely verify that Nate does that 100%. But when you say I design product experience that challenge assumptions, reduce friction, deliver results, this is more like a mantra rather than maybe something that's easily tied back to you, informs me about who you are, or shares like different personality pieces. This would probably be true for a lot of designer portfolios and is not going to be a strong differentiator for you. So we invite you to check out some of our resources as we shared before. You can go here to help find some pieces of positioning, kind of choosing which things to lean into for this statement, but
Mm-hmm.
generally addressing like who you design for, what kinds of things might be as part of your process, results that you've achieved in the past, and then a little bit about like maybe like a special thing that you lean into. It's okay to be a little quirky in this sentence, but to be candid. Um, there is an explore work button, like a little scroll button.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's already below the fold for me. So unless you plan to adjust this section, it looks like it may have been planned to be one full frame, except that the nav bars on top of it were kind of not on top of it, but pushing it down. I would probably just remove these. These
Okay.
they're interesting. They're interesting tools. I don't know if they make a big difference. I would look it up. If you want to do something really unique, like you want a custom mouse or like a custom keyboard or something, because you're leaning into that aesthetic, maybe do something there. Otherwise, it does feel a little bit extra generic to have one of these pieces in here. I don't know. Take it or leave it.
Okay.
Nate, can we talk about the introduction to the portfolio before this case study before we jump into it?
Yeah, and the case study won't be a deep dive, as you will quickly understand why when we open that thing up. The case
Okay.
study. So when we're talking about like what are the things one should have on one's product design portfolio, Tim and I will hone in aggressively on the value prop. After that, we'll hone in on the case studies that one needs to provide. Now, you've got the intention here of building 3 case studies. So I love the direction there. And when one scrolls down the page, you go from value prop right to case study. I think that's absolutely the right call. Now, in regard to showcasing those case studies, here's where we want to dive into a couple of things. One is storytelling, but the other is enabling a user to figure out which case study they want to look at. And there are a couple of ways we can achieve that. So, for example, if we look at your first case study, it's currently entitled Front End Web Development. And that's great. That's a great like tag for this project. And if I'm hiring you for a front end development role, I would then want to, I would probably click on that that case study. But there's a better story we can tell there, and that's what's the benefit, what's the outcome you're able to provide for that case study. So, are you able to just describe real fast, like what was the problem you were trying to solve in that front end web development role?
It was just to create something that would stand out from like the rest of like the marketing. Really,
And
just a mhm.
and why were you trying to make it stand out?
It's because a lot of website now it's like you can use a Squarespace or you can use like Wix and create like a really basic website already. But this one, like if you stand out, you can start having the user interact with a website and stay on there for longer and maybe have more conversions.
Cool. So if I were to repeat that back to you in a storytelling format here, we could retitle your case study something like increasing conversions for this company's product A. And that's already a better story for why a person is wishing to read your case study. Their goal is not to understand what this product is. Their goal is to understand who you are and how you can benefit my company. So, like Tim was mentioning earlier, the goal here is not to sell your products or to sell the products of your case studies. The goal is sell you as a person that can work for these organizations. Now, that's a phenomenal segue into why the case study itself is adjacent to the direction we want to go. Tim, go ahead and open up. And wait, unless you wanted to add anything to the verbiage here.
Yeah, I would say just when we're thinking about right, the idea is you apply to a job and you're appealing to the people who work at that company. Knowing your position, right, in-house often is going to be situations where a team is growing, someone has been promoted. There's typically like a large gap, and there's a series of responsibilities that go on like in perpetuity, like a very long time. So, for example, you hire someone to help build your, for example, your healthcare interface and your forms, and will be responsible for checking in on that and improving it over time. Versus sometimes you might need a logo or you might need like a website to advertise your services on. It's like kind of very scoped work that like has a one-time input and then it just kind of should keep working for the most part on its own. And that determines whether you need to advertise like, hey, I can build your website, or for example, I can do front-end web development, versus saying I'm a person who can think through these problems that you solve that you need to solve as a team and can support the work that your team is doing. And so just kind of taking in that perspective there. I feel like it's been hyped up now. I'm really excited to click in this and see what happens here.
I'm going to
Um,
say nothing. Go ahead and open up that bad boy.
hey, expectations met. That's pretty cool. That's what I was expecting.
Keep going.
Um, very cool. Oh, wow. If I was a keyboard company, this would be it. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite switch, by the way?
I think the
I'm
reds.
definitely a fan of blues. I like blues.
It animates Unbelievable.
The blues are my favorite for sure. I've had browns. Oh, it's just gross sounding. And then reds are squishy, so squishy. You go to sleep on those. Yeah. Okay. Very nice. Very nice. Yep. This is what I expect. This is like a full product page.
I mean, that I think is the correct verbiage to use here. So this is a phenomenal page. This is doing a lot of stuff really, really effectively, really well. None of those things.
Is this a real keyboard?
No, it was a project I've kind of followed, and it helped me
So
like do more.
What happens if I put my phone number and information here? Does anything happen?
No, it doesn't do anything. It's a sandbox, so it's just
Fake door test? Are you measuring
Yeah.
success rates here?
Oh no, it's a Stripe. This is a Stripe setting. This is a Stripe sandbox here. So he's saying it doesn't make any API calls to your bank or anything, but you can actually put in your information as if.
I see.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Okay. Nate, say your piece and I'll say my piece.
No, I'm gonna get the feeling we're gonna say something similar here. So this page is very cool in a lot of ways. It's as a showcase to selling a particular product, absolutely phenomenal. I'd buy this keyboard in a heartbeat. In all the ways that this page is good, none of them apply to you being a product designer looking for work. This is a sales page. This would be phenomenal if you're selling a product or profiting off of this keyboard. But if my goal is to hire you as a UX designer, this not only does nothing for that story, it positions you as an incorrect decision for the person I'm looking to hire for. Like it's not just that it's positioning you incorrectly, it's reductive to your goals, which is a bummer, right? But what a cool page this is. So when we're talking about case studies, what we're really looking for is the story of how you went about solving a business problem, what was your process for solving that problem, and then how did you validate success that the problem was in fact solved. And we're looking for that lengthy process for here's what it would look like if I were to hire you as a UX designer in the space. How are you feeling about that? Because we can totally dive deeper into the outlines of what these look like. Is this feedback you've heard before? How are you feeling about all of this?
It was my first time getting this feedback. It really was just as a cool project I found online, and I was able to like follow. I was like surprised I was able to follow it, and from there, it helped me build more websites such as my portfolio. And then the main thing that I came on here to ask was really just know what I'm trying to do in my portfolio. Like you said, like I need to rebrand like the wording, or like what services I can provide, stuff like that.
Let me give you an example here, Tim. I've added a link in the chat. This is this link that Tim's about to pull up. We've talked about this link in the past. This is a lady named Carolyn. She's a product designer. This is her portfolio. The reason I like showcasing this portfolio is because if Tim and I were to write down the top 10 most important things you need to have in your portfolio, Carolyn has done exactly those top 10 things and nothing else past that. So if your goal is to validate and measure like what a case study or what a product design portfolio should look like, this is the good barometer by which you can start and then augment from as you move forward. Take a look at Carolyn's first case study here. And this is the formation that recruiters and hiring managers are typically looking for when hiring candidates into their enterprise or whatever level organization. And you'll see a lot of the storytelling here. So the title of this case study. Oh, and let's go back to the title, Tim. Great example of a storytelling and titling. Strengthening Modern Doc's competitive edge with source citations. Like they are showcasing the narrative.
Notice how the problem that they're solving is not building an app. It is not doing web development. It is instead a business item. Mom Doc's competitive edge with source citations. So they're listing like a process, but they're also listing specifically the business goal and outcome that they're achieving, that their team is supporting. Because you don't just build an app to build an app because it's cool, unless you're crazy. And some people are crazy. We do it all the time. But most people want to build apps or build websites to support business functions that increase revenue or move the needle in terms of like their positioning across the world. And an awareness of that and how you phrase your problem solving really matures your entire case study.
And then as Tim scrolls through this, we'll see a couple of common things that we find in case studies. Here's an overview of the problem that's trying to, or of the context of the business. Here's the problem that's trying to be solved. Here's an impact section dedicated to like how Carolyn has measured success that the problem has in fact been solved. And as Tim continues to scroll, you'll find design artifacts that express her process by how she goes about solving these business problems and delineating them down into smaller pieces, and then breaking them up into actionables, and then validating with stakeholders. Processes one would typically find in a UX or product design process. It's these kind of shenanigans that we're looking for. Your keyboard case study or your keyboard page, very cool. Not a case study.
Okay.
But I will say that it's a cool loading in animation too. It's got state control here. I will definitely say if you were positioning yourself from an agency perspective, or from the perspective of someone who's looking to build web apps like this for customers from a freelance point of view, such as like Shopify or Stripe development, this is probably a good thing to have on your website. Like it's a good like thing to have in the chamber. You're ready to say like, I build websites for people who need stores. Look at the store that I built in the past that you can have just like this. So you can interact with it. You can see how clean it is. I think it's a really safe move to do. It just does not typically solve the same problems for the audience that you have told us that you're looking for, being in-house. It solves very different problems, a very different problem space, and a different way of advertising that versus like the work versus the person, and the person who's aware of the problems that the team and the company is facing and solving.
Well, Tim, this is actually a really interesting nuance you're bringing up. Like that keyboard page that's been created, that is more applicable to that of a freelance showcase. Like, check out this website. This is what we're capable of building. Your website could look like this. If the goal was freelance, I could see something like this being in a showcase or gallery section. If your goal is getting hired at a larger organization, this would be the result of a process that you've created, and I want to see what that process is. Would you stop it? Would you stop pushing that button? I want to see what the end of what that whole process looks like. So like, I think you totally can showcase this in a in-house position, but it would be at the very end of your case study. Like, hey, after all this process, after all this cool storytelling I've done, here's the end result. Check it out. And that would be an incredible story. I think you've got a story here. Like, you probably went through a pretty intense process to build that showcase piece. I would love to know what that process was.
Okay.
What a
So
cool
should
page.
I like document like my work throughout like how I was building this, and then do it similar to like how Carolyn does her like formatting?
Carolyn's is certainly a great place to begin. The emphasis that I want to target here is that if your goal is targeting UX positions, then we'd want to frame your story of how you went about solving user problems. Tim, I cut you off there. What were you about to say?
I was just gonna say very similar. Like, this is a good place to start, but everyone's a little bit different, right? We should be careful to not copy paste case study formats across things, because every project you work through is a little bit different. But we do see consistently that when it comes to teams want to hire a person, and so how do you show that you can solve problems? It's by showing your process of solving and thinking. And so thinking out loud on the page, showing the artifacts and the evidence of, when they say like, yeah, make it look a little messy. What they're saying is showing the work that you've done along the way, showing what's happened as you've done stuff, makes a big difference. It helps people like understand just who you are, how you think, and makes you more versatile, because you're probably not going to be solving the same exact problem the entire time you're at a company, and showing your ability to think through problems and convince them that this was a problem, and then I'm now the greatest designer of all time because I solved the problem in the perfect way. And you can show that by just taking them along for the ride, right? We mentioned this earlier, our jolts, our journey, our jackpot. Showing people how you do things and taking them along with you is an excellent storytelling method that often helps people reach the outcome that they're hoping for.
Tim, I want to showcase one last piece before we end today's call for the final time. Head over to the Design Shaped website And where I'm going with this, Henry, is that we've got an asset here. Go to the resources tab and hit the bottommost link there, what design titles actually mean. Now, this document is dedicated more towards showcasing what are the differences between titles like UI and UX and product design. But, Tim, if you were to select UX design here, and then in that section below, it's describing what hiring managers are looking for in your UX design portfolio and case study. This is a good list of the things that we're trying to find in your case study. And then the red flags there as well. And one of the red flags being research theater, 5 interviews. Well, in this case, it says 5 interviews and the final design ignores. I guess what I was looking for was like a final design that didn't showcase anything. That would be a red flag. But I'm hoping you might be able to use this particular utility to see like what hiring managers are looking for in a UX design portfolio to at least give you some like push in the right direction. How are you feeling with all that feedback so far? Do you feel like you've got any sort of actionability to move forward?
Yeah, it kind of like gave me insight like why there's no leads for me, because I'm just in between these two worlds, and I think Tim said earlier, like I have to pick one world to be in.
You're like Hannah Montana.
Yeah.
Grade school by day, rock star by night.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's really just like I think I enjoyed looking at Carolyn's, and then like that gave me a direction to head towards.
Tim, any final thoughts on your side?
There is another. I mean, there's lots of good examples out there. So, don't limit yourself to just looking at Carolyn's. Although Carolyn's awesome, and we've had her on before. She's a really cool person. Maybe we'll have to feature her as a guest sometimes, and she can talk about this, and help rate. But I would just caution: don't try to force your story to fit someone else's story. Just
Mhm.
remembering that the main thing is introduce why something matters, which is your jolt and your hook. If you can identify who you're targeting and you can make this problem resonate with them, they'll be much more likely to go down the journey with you. And if they get to the end of the journey, you can give them the thing that they want, which is they believe now that you are the greatest designer in the entire world. And of course, they should hire you. And making this process apparent throughout your case study is the goal, especially when you're approaching this from a in-house perspective. Uh, if you are trying to get freelance and agency work, that is different. It's a different positioning. It means different words, different process, but still same general principle of get attention by talking about things that people care about, and then show them how you solve those problems in a way that's meaningful to them. But thanks for your time today, Henry.
Well, thank you.
Chat, really appreciate all you folks being here and the folks that we were able to chat with here on stage. Really appreciate your willingness to hop on here. That was the last review for today. We do this every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're new here, would love to see you at future Fridays. Feel free to add your portfolio resume to the chat next time we do this. I would love to see you a couple minutes early if your goal is to really get something reviewed. You have to make sure you're one of the first 5 or so links. Highly recommend you're getting 10 minutes early to add your link. We don't have time for Q&A today. Tim, is that accurate? You've got to take off here?
Unfortunately, I must go. I must Thanos snap myself and disappear. But everyone has been excellent. Nate and I, we do this for not our own reasons, but just because we want to be part of the community and helping out others. And so we're grateful that you're here, and we're grateful that we're able to provide some measure of value. And if you found it valuable, let us know so we can keep doing it. And if not, feel free to voice your opinion and your dissent freely. We won't be biased or discriminate. You can always come back in the future. But thanks, everyone. We appreciate you. Happy Friday.
One last thing. I see Shweta's asking, where can we get portfolio review? If you want to get your portfolio reviewed here, we went through that. Just add your link to the chat next Friday, early as possible. We also have the HOP community, which is now starting to introduce mentees. This is an ADP list competitor. And the idea is if you're looking for getting your stuff one-on-one reviewed with people. These are all product design professionals dedicated toward helping you with your needs. Tim and I are both on there, but you'll see that there is a list of other folk on here as well. So if you're looking for additional feedback that we can't do on here, or you're looking for longer feedback or more personalized feedback, would love to see you on Hop.
And just to clarify, we do not design or own Hop. Design Buddies does, and so we're affiliated through that way.
Good clarification. Yeah.
Just clarifying. However, if you do have complaints or bugs on Design Shape with the resource that we've shared over here, please let us know. That is one that Nate and I run and maintain and want to add stuff to actively. In fact, there's stuff that I find myself drawing frequently that I should probably just turn into a thing that people can look at, and then you don't have to watch me draw. So exactly, Sargon got it completely. So
cool. Tim, say something inspirational, and then we'll take off.
Something inspirational that I could share beyond just saying the words something inspirational. Guys, we're just grateful for you. We love doing this. I know that the world feels like it is on fire. And guess what? The fire comes from our minds. We get to participate in the burning of the world in a good way, and we can lift it to a better and better place by improving design everywhere. And just don't let the downers get you forever. We can always be positive. That's why we want to turn a roast into a collaborative session, as we've done here today. So, is that inspirational for you?
It was super inspirational for me.
Did I do it?
That was it.
I felt like it was definitely a little bit soupy. You know, soup.
Mods on the call, please clip that for our Twitch stream. Take care, everybody.
With great power comes great soup, guys. That's it. So. I'll put the Hop link back in here. Yeah.
Might still be in my clipboard. Oh, double Hop.
Double Hop, a double jump. What? Double Jump Studios. I love that they're making a slight comeback. Have you seen their newest thing?
I don't know who Double Jump Studios is. Wait, are you thinking of Rocket Jump?
I am thinking of Rocket Jump.
Rocket Jump is back?
Oh, yeah.
Did they just make a movie about the world
They're making
falling
it's
apart?
It's called they did make a movie about the world falling apart. I never saw that, but it's on YouTube. You can watch it. It sounds like it. They also made what? Okay, cool. There's they're working on something called, I think it's like Roadhouse Project or something. Roadhouse. Freddy is the star in it. Freddy's the main star. So.
On that note.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.